This module is related to the facets of trade liberalization. That trade liberalization has some different kind of forms or different kind of situations. Since our focus here is on economic dimension or economic focus or economic relationship, so we are going to find the facets with respect to the economic dimensions. There are two major areas where we are going to focus. One is the macroeconomic implication and second is the microeconomic implication. What is the macroeconomic implication of globalization or liberalization? On the one side, liberalization leads toward increase in inputs. Previously, countries depend upon the total number of resources and inputs available within the countries. Now that scope has expanded. Each country have the possibility, those who are the part of the globalization, have the opportunity to exploit any resource across the world. And in this digitalization even allowed that you don't have to move from your country, still you can use the resource there. Secondly, efficiency of allocation has been improved. Efficiency of allocation means which resource should be used in which production process. Now that kind of situation has evolved over the time. Previously, you know that whenever prices of goods are growing, this means that product is in demand, so producers are going to produce more of that product. And now this kind of allocation is going to happen, that over the across the world, which product is demanded more and more, producer across the world start producing that particular product and throwing it into the international market. So that scope is going to change and allocation is going to based on the most high efficiency level, so that every firm or countries try to achieve the economies of scale so that they can produce maximum output with the minimum possible cost. Another important aspect is the innovation. A lot of innovations have been evolved or developed through the process of liberalization and globalization, because cross-cultural, educational and social context allowed different type of peoples to think differently. So people who are having different mindset and think in a stereotype dimension, they start thinking in diversity, and diversity allowed them to improve the production processes, to introduce new kind of products, to change the use of the given products. So different kind of innovations allowed due to this process of globalization in the macroeconomic context. Whenever we are going to focus on microeconomic implication or context, a whole chain reaction is going to be observed here. Just like the trade liberalization leads towards expansion in economic activities. So domestic economic activities are going to increase, which leads towards the high economies of scale, lowering down the cost, increase the profit margin, as well as the level of output. And this allow new firms to enter into the market, because the excessive profit, the economic profit, is going to attract new firms to enter into the market. And entry of the new markets, firms are going to establish agglomeration within the countries. So agglomeration of firms jointly generates so much high level of surpluses, which allowed these countries to export more goods and services across the other countries, specifically goods and less on services, even though the educational agglomeration may cause more services thing as well. Then the cost is going to move down, the profits are moving up, and this will generate new type of businesses even, because the venture capital is going to establish through these agglomeration for developing a new product, for developing a new strategy to produce the product, or developing a new recipe for production process, all these things. So agglomeration is going to be strengthened due to these processes, and further more entry of the firms is going to lead towards the saturation, and the saturation is going to generate a limitation. That saturation actually reflects a limitation which is appeared in form of infrastructure. One, the infrastructure is not going to support so much expansion, so that kind of limitation is not allowing every firm to achieve the highest level of production process. And secondly, quality oriented consumption is going to set in, people having the lot of commodity available related to any product, so they are going to choose the best quality one, best qualities. So that is going to increase the cost, and this rising cost is going to stop this process of further agglomeration or globalization. If we are going to observe the economic domain as a whole, then we have few things which need to understand. One is the exchange. How exchange is going to happen within the context of globalization process. International trade is going to expand, and expansion in international trade allowed the countries to exchange across the countries. Mean scope of exchange of goods and services is going to become more nationalized, more globalized. Now here we are not going to sell product to the local or domestic consumer. We are going to sell the product to the whole world. So many consumers in the world are there who can buy the product. So exchange is possible across the world. Secondly, factor of production. Previously, you know, the factor of production specifically related to the financial market and labor market, they are the prime one, because the capital resource is required and the labor resource is required as a major factor of production for any production process. So factor of production previously imposed the limitation, because whatever factor is available abundantly, countries are bound to produce related to that product. Now these factors are available across the world. If local market labor is not available, you can generate labor through international market. If capital is going to be shortened in the local market, you can arrange capital through the international market. So that kind of factor of production limitation is over. No, it's not there. Secondly, labor intensive technology and capital intensive technologies are based on the availability of the abundant factor. Now that is also over, because any factor can be abundant through the process of international globalization. Then the market forces, specifically theory of demand and the universal consumerism, actually shows that demand depends upon the local income. So what now is going to happen? Demand depends upon local income as well as international income. Demand depends upon local prices as well as international prices. Demand depends upon local taste as well as international taste. So more scope for the demand. So automatically consumers are becoming more universal. Now the focus of the companies are not the local consumer but the universal consumer. So they are going to introduce variety of commodities and more commodities. Productivity is also going to change. Interestingly, all kind of technological development leads towards enhancing the productivity of a given factor of production. So previously labor intensive technology, due to the huge availability of labor, now labor is going to be replaced with the capital technologies, and capital technologies reduce the quantity of labor in a given production process but increase the productivity of the same unit of labor. So the labor is going to be more productive, the capital is becoming more productive, the land is becoming more productive, because different kind of strategies are available, different kind of mechanics and systems are available across the world, which you can use and get the high level of productivity. Allocation of resources, specifically overproduction leads towards competition, because allocation on the basis of what consumer needs is leading towards more production. Here interesting thing is that you can say the sales lies is going to be more true in the globalization process. The demand creates supply creates its own demand, because now the different kind of producers, they are going to produce first and try to sell it later. So they are going to generate the market by themselves. And secondly, overproduction further leads to more competition, and automatically in that case product quality is going to be more important. Another important thing is the resources, and that resources is going to be generated with effective leadership. That kind of leadership which needs to support the globalization process, which need to open the borders across the world and induce countries to join hand with each other and support to each other, so that most of the countries can get the benefit of globalization. Some of the resources are available. You can go through this website where you can have more information regarding this economic facets of globalization, and you can learn a lot.